Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Miami Total Football Radio, the show. It's me, Franco Panizo, by his lonesome today. No Andrea Llanes, no Jose Armando. It's just me, myself, and I. No Alonso Contreras. Um, Jose and Andrea are still covering the Miami Open. So they're watching tennis right now as they get ready to transition back into football this weekend, with Inter Miami returning to play. Also, Alonso Contreras was supposed to join me, but he had some last minute issues that prevented him from joining the podcast. So it is a rare solo show from yours truly. And as you can see back here, this episode is not brought to you by Baptist Health. That is a joke, obviously, a nod to, well, a big thing that we'll be talking about, which is Lionel Messi's injury, which is the biggest news to cover over the past couple of weeks since we last appeared here on Miami Total Football Radio, the show. Of course, last time we were present, it was for the watch along for Inter Miami versus Atlanta United. Now, of course, if you've just been tuning into the podcast, you don't watch, on YouTube, you listen to the show, it's probably been a few weeks, a little bit longer than since you've last heard of us, because obviously we did watch alongs for the game against Cavalier FC, and then we did another watch along for the game against Atlanta United. So 2 watch alongs, and we didn't have our usual pod. So this is the podcast picking up from there. I have got my Inca Cola, true to form, coming back from international break. So thank you guys for joining me on this Thursday night. We did start on time. And that's large part because it's just me, myself, and I. But we'll make the best of it. Normally, I would have canceled or postponed to try to get somebody on, but I wanted to make good on my promise that we would start on time. So here we are. So, of course, we're going to do a lot of talking about Lionel Messi and his status and what his availability is for the weekend, because he is injured. It's official. He actually did pick up an injury in the last game against Atlanta United. Obviously, not good news for Inter Miami, not good for Messi, not good news for Argentina's national team, because he actually did not end up going on international duty with his selección. So we will talk about all of that. We will preview this weekend's game against Atlanta United, against the Philadelphia Union, and we will quickly recap the match against Atlanta United from a couple of weeks ago. So let's do this in chronological order on this week's show. And of course, if you're in the comment section, we've got Messi Pensante saying, Messi is God. Ace Lionel says, any news on Baltasar and Obando? Yes, there is an update on Obando. We will get to that here in just one moment. So, starting with the news about Lionel Messi against Atlanta United and quickly against Cavalier FC, he made his return in the match against Cavalier FC, coming off the bench and playing about half an hour, scored a goal pretty much on the final play in the return leg, the decisive leg of that CONCACAF Champions Cup series. That was his first game back since La Sobrecarga, since the muscle overload. He wasn't injured at the time. He was on the brink of an injury, but was not injured. This is the official language from Inter Miami. So that's why he was rested for a few games. So he makes his return in Jamaica, scores a goal, sends the fans into a frenzy. Inter Miami wins. They advance. They will play LAFC in the next round of the Champions Cup, which the first leg is next week. Big matchup, big test. It'll be a late one for the first leg, but we will talk about that more next week as we preview that match and probably do a watch along. Not sure which one of you night owls will be with us, but all the same, we will do that. So Messi scores in his return in Jamaica. A few days later, Inter Miami takes to the turf field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And they also prevail in that one 2-1, thanks to a comeback effort that included another Lionel Messi goal and a 5-5 Pico winner at the very end of the game. We'll talk about the Pico goal in a moment, but of course we'll stick on Messi. That is the biggest talking point. Messi makes his 90-minute start, scores a goal, hell of a goal, un golazo, as we talked about on the watch along, in case you again are recapping or following up with us for the first time in a few weeks. Wins the ball high up the field with a good press. It was a very good collective high press from Inter Miami, but Messi's part was the instrumental part because his pressure forces the turnover, so he strips the ball in a very advanced position deep in Atlanta United territory. Then he takes the ball on the dribble, gets by a defender, fakes a shot on Brad Guzan, Atlanta United goalkeeper, who could not be beat for much of the match. And then he delicately chips the ball over Brad Guzan into the back of the net. Very fluid, very quick, a lot of technique, effort. Impressive because, we do say, and it's been, you could say, a criticism that he has not put in the work defensively, by and large, that he saves his energy for when he has the ball, for the most part. On this occasion, he made an impact, and in this game, but especially in this moment, he made an impact on both sides of the ball, right? He defends to win the ball back, and then has the talent with the ball to get by a defender, to cut by a defender, and then with Brad Guzan racing towards him to be able to clip the ball over. Un golazo, exquisite technique. And this is what Javier Mascherano had to say about the goal after that game.
Bueno, el de Leo es un gol que solo puede hacer él, el mejor jugador de la historia de este deporte. No hay más que decir, ¿no? Un jugador que tiene la capacidad de hacer los goles más lindos que uno pueda ver.
So Mascherano with some kind words for Messi, as is usually the case, saying that Messi, what is there more to say? Messi has the quality, the capacity to score the type of goals that might be the most beautiful that you will ever see. So it was looking well for Inter Miami. It was looking well. I mean, they definitely finished. They went into the international break on a high, unbeaten in the start to the season. Messi getting his minutes again, scoring goals in both of his appearances before going off to the international break. But then came word on Monday. Then came the news on Monday that started to come in as reports from Argentina. But it eventually came out to be un comunicado, a press release from the organization, a rare update on Lionel Messi and his overall status. And that's because Inter Miami acknowledged that he had an injury. Now, of course, what led into this, right? Because we talk about Messi, we talk about how there's always a lack of transparency with regards to his health and, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? So what led to this communication from Inter Miami? What had led to this update? Well, the fact that he was desconvocado, the fact that he was removed from Argentina's roster, right? It was announced by Argentina. They submitted a final roster for the World Cup qualifiers on Monday that they announced publicly, and Messi wasn't on there. So he had been on there previously, right, in the roster that had been announced previous to that. And then on the final roster, the most up-to-date roster, he was taken off because of this injury. So Inter Miami, hours later on that Monday, puts out a press release stating the following. Inter Miami, a quote, Inter Miami CF has provided an injury update presented by Baptist Health for Captain Leo Messi. Messi underwent an MRI this morning to assess the extent of the discomfort in his adductor region. which he experienced during last night's match against Atlanta United. The examination's findings confirmed the presence of a low-grade injury in the adductor muscle. His clinical progress and response to the treatment will determine his availability for competition. End quote. So that was Inter Miami's official release. Now, look, I will say what I said initially to the colleagues, the Miami Total Football Radio colleagues, in that it's progress from Inter Miami, right? It's progress that they at least said something, right? It wasn't just wait and see. It wasn't just, we'll leave it to be a mystery. They said something. Now, was their hand forced by, of course, the national team, non-call up or with the removal from the national team? Yes, of course. It was forced by that. Of course, there's a lot of public attention on Messi at any point, but especially when it comes to Argentina. Lionel Messi also took to his social media. He also went to his Instagram on that Monday to share a comment, or you could take it as a statement with regards to his health. So we'll share that here. And it says, it's a picture of him in an Argentina jersey. Quote, una lástima perderme estos dos partidos tan especiales con la selección contra Uruguay y Brasil. Como siempre quería estar, pero en el último momento una lesión no muy importante que me obliga a parar por un tiempo antes de volver a jugar me dejó afuera. Desde acá voy a estar alentando y acompañando como un hincha más. Vamos, Argentina. End quote. So for those of you that don't speak Spanish, I will translate very quickly. He said pretty much, it's a shame. I'm going to lose these two very special games with my national team against Uruguay and Brazil. As always, I wanted to be there, but at the last moment, not too significant injury has forced me to stop for some time before returning to play. So that leaves me out. From here, I will be supporting and accompanying my national team like another fan. Let's go Argentina. So that was Messi's comment on his social media account. Now, let's go back to Inter Miami's press release, because while Messi does say it's an injury, well, before we get to Messi again, we're going to dive into the wording here. Look at Inter Miami's press release. Here they say, the findings confirm the presence of a low-grade injury in the adductor muscle. Okay, so like I said, while it's a step forward that Inter Miami communicated anything at all with more specific detail to Messi's health, the fact that they say low-grade injury still leaves some mystery, right? Is it a grade 1? Is it a grade 2? It's not a grade 3 because then it wouldn't be a low grade. But is it a grade 1 or is it a grade 2? We don't know because we're not given that detail. Now, why are we not given that detail? Again, it goes back to Inter Miami's handling of it, not wanting to put a timeline, not wanting to potentially hurt ticket sales. Because if you can say it's low grade, you can clearly share specifically what grade it is. You're just choosing not to, which is fine. There's no one says you're obligated to, right? I mean, there's no rule that says you're obligated to. So Inter Miami's doing this by the rules, right? They're not breaking any rules here. However, it's still that same song and dance with murkiness, mysteriousness, lack of transparency, still to an extent, when it comes to Lionel Messi's health. Because there's no timetable for recovery, right? Let's look at the press release one more time. Nowhere there does it say how long he's going to be out for. And they know very damn well roughly how long he's going to be out for, right? They get a medical report. Hey, this injury is going to take probably 2 to 3 weeks or, 4 to 6 weeks, whatever the case is. I'm just throwing random numbers out there. But they have that medical report. Every injury has a rough timeline for recovery. Yet Inter Miami, once again, does not share that part. Again, they are not breaking any rules, but they're also not being super forthcoming, right? So the last sentence there, his clinical progress and response to treatment will determine his availability for competition. Okay, so practically he's day-to-day. Practically he's day-to-day. That's what that last sentence is saying to you. So when the media asks, they're going to say, oh, he's making great progress. We don't know yet. We're going to see. We'll check it out. I mean, they have not clearly said how long he's going to be out for. Now, if you look at the wording in his statement on his Instagram, he tries to make it clear, at least in his wording, that the injury is not muy importante. It's not very significant. Okay? But he does say, me obliga a parar por un tiempo antes de volver a jugar. This injury will stop me from playing for a time or some time before returning to action, before returning to play. It sounds like, to me, right, this is just me from the outside reading between the wording here from both, that it's going to take him probably another week or so to be, at least, to be healthy, right? Because he might be able to play, but are you pushing him again without him being fully healed? Are you going to be risking an even bigger injury? I mean, we haven't really spoken to Inter Miami, head coach Javier Mascherano. We haven't really spoken to much of anyone since that Atlanta United game. Inter Miami did return to have availability this week, right? They had last week. They had a few days where they trained. Then they had the weekend off. A lot of players went in different directions. Some players went to the Caribbean to enjoy the downtime for having the match day off, having some downtime given to them by the club. Other players went to Orlando, like there was an Argentine contingent, some of the younger Argentines that went as a group to Orlando. So, Disney World, Universal. I think I saw on social media, if I'm not mistaken, that Jordi Alba and Busquets, I think they flew out somewhere. They posted they were flying somewhere. So Inter Miami had some downtime. Now, Messi has been recovering, healing during that time. We did see him on Monday during a season ticket holder event that was held at Chase Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, an open training for the season ticket holders. And we saw Messi there. He did some drills with the group, trained a little bit, light work, pretty much just agility drills. And then he observed training from the side. He did some individual work as well. He did drills with the team, then individual drills, and then he kind of just observed for a large part, sitting on the ball, icing his left leg or adductor region. And that was it. It was a pretty simple training for Inter Miami as a group. Allen Obando was there. We will, again, talk about him in a little bit. Now, on Tuesday, when media, because the Monday thing was a fan event, although I was able to partake, had the, those old school glasses, the nose, the mustache, and I was in disguise. No, I wasn't, but I was there on Monday. But Tuesday was officially the day for media to return to Inter Miami facilities for the first time since that, before that Atlanta United game. And we talked to Fafa Pico and Gonzalo Luján. So they're Inter Miami players and they are part of the protagonists, of course, of this team. Nobody that's an authority to talk on Messi's health like Javier Mascherano is, right? So tomorrow on Friday, we will get the opportunity to do so. We'll see what update he gives us. We'll see if there's any clear answer as to whether Messi plays on the weekend or not, but that we won't know till after the show is recorded. What I can tell you is that on Tuesday, we saw Messi with the group during the 15 minutes that were open to media. It was the warm-up drills, but he did partake in all of it. He was not doing any of those 15 minutes by himself individually off to the side, either with a physio or by his lonesome. He did it with the team. I have actually some footage here that I would like to share with you guys. Let's see if I can get it. No, not that one. Trying to see if I can share it with you guys. It's not letting me share it for whatever reason. Interesting. So it's not letting me share it, but I will see if I can fix that here momentarily. See, not as easy when I'm just here by myself. But again, other co-hosts had other obligations that prevented them from being here. And let me go to the comment section here. Here's Thomas saying, all the co-hosts calling sick now. No, Jose and Andrea are still with the Miami Open, still doing tennis. And Alonso had I won't say an emergency, but something came up that was not foreseen, that was not part of the plan, and that ruled him out. So he was a late scratch. During warmups, he was a late scratch. So we should have the entire group back next week. That is the plan. I have told Andrea Llanes, aka our beloved Akisita, that she hasn't been on for a few weeks now. And if Inter Miami loses this weekend and then she reappears, the conspiracy theorists will say she only shows up when Inter Miami loses, because there has been that trend for whatever reason. I'm not lending credit to the conspiracy theory, but it has been a trend at times. So we'll see. Hopefully, for Andrea's sake and for Inter Miami's sake, they win this weekend. So that one is put to rest, at least for a week here. Jay in the comment section says they don't have to tell nothing to do the other teams give the list of players. They don't have to tell nothing, period. Do the other teams give the list of their players? Again, like I said, Inter Miami is not breaking any rules. Absolutely, that is a fact. They are not breaking any rules by not being transparent with Messi and his health. However, there's going to be plenty of fan frustration when it comes to Messi, because people want to go see him play, right? It's not a secret that a lot of these fans that turn out to Inter Miami games these days are not necessarily Inter Miami fans. A lot of them, a good portion of them, are, by and large, Messi fans. So anything that happens with Inter Miami has to do with Lionel Messi. So if his availability is of great public interest to a lot of people. So if he's not there, then yeah, that leads to a lot of frustration, leads to a lot of dialogue and discourse. I mean, we had been talking about it for some time, and afterwards, it now became some people on, fans on social media that were not happy towards the end about the lack of clarity. So, these things happen. These things happen when you aren't fully transparent. But you're right. Inter Miami is not breaking any rules. However, still don't know when he'll be available. We don't know if he'll play this weekend against the Philadelphia Union. We will see. Jay Vasquez says that season ticket open house practice, he was training by himself, but believe he's been training with the group after that. Yep, that's what I saw on Tuesday. I'm trying to share the footage with you so you guys can see him running. You can see him doing his thing. But for whatever reason, it is not cooperating here. All the same, not brought to you. This show is not brought to you by Baptist Health. Inter Miami will play this weekend against the Philadelphia Union. It's at home on Saturday night at Shea Stadium. Inter Miami, well rested, since they were one of only two teams that didn't have to play during the international break. I wonder why that was. So they'll be at home against a good opponent in the East. Another big test. Look, they passed the test against Atlanta United. They were a bit fortunate. I will say that. I will, for analyzing that game. They put up a good effort. They fought, they scrapped, they found a way to win, even when they didn't play their best. And that's a sign of a good team, right? But you have to also note that Fafa Pico's winner comes off a header. He was subbed into the game a few moments earlier, and he heads the ball into the back of the net on a play that Brad Guzan should have made a save on, right? Brad Guzan has been absolutely heroic for Atlanta United in the last few games against Inter Miami. This game, he was on his way to doing the same. He'd stopped Messi on one shot. He made a couple of good saves. But in the end, in the decisive moment, on a play that he should have made the stop, kept the game level, and probably has it end in a draw, he dives for the ball. He starts to stick out his arm, but he sees a defender looking like he's going to make a play on it, looking like he's going to clear it. So Brad Guzan alligator arms it, so he doesn't make the full effort to clear the ball. The defender thought Brad Guzan was going to make the save. So miscommunication entirely from the two Atlanta United players. Neither one of them clears the ball to safety. It bounces into the back of the net, and Inter Miami prevails off of that game-winning goal from Papa Pico, his first goal with Inter Miami, official. And Francisco Garcia says, El Manco Guzan. I mean, it's just crazy how sports work, right? He's been the hero. He was tremendous during those 90 minutes, picking up where he kind of left off in the playoff series last year, which eliminated Inter Miami. And then, of course, he's the one that commits the massive blunder at the end to pretty much give Inter Miami the win. So I would put it more on him than the defender. Yeah, they both share some blame, but Brad Guzan's the goalkeeper. Brad Guzan is the player that can play with his hands, that can use his hands, and he just did not do it. So that one falls on Brad Guzan, but kudos to Inter Miami for a job well done. I will give Javier Mascherano some more flowers because the way the game started for Inter Miami, it was not great. They didn't play particularly well. Miguel Almiron was finding it a lot of space down the right flank, down Inter Miami's left side, where Jordi Alba was vacating his spot, and it was leading to a lot of issues, crosses in. You saw maybe finally some weakness from Maximiliano Falcon, and that's in the air. Wasn't the best. He's partially to blame on the opener. Gets beat in the air. And then he also got beat in the air later in the game, but another goal was called back. Another Atlanta United goal was called back for offside. So saw some weaknesses from Inter Miami's defense, but they fought, they scrapped, they continue to compete, which is a good sign from this team that even if they're not playing well, they still find ways to battle through, which, again, you could tell that's Javier Mascherano's doing. That is a good sign for Inter Miami, especially if you're an Inter Miami fan. And they were able to put themselves in a position to win the game thanks to some good fortune, which you'll take if you're Inter Miami. But they have another big test, and that's this weekend against the Philadelphia Union at home. Now, for Inter Miami, of course, the biggest question is going to be, is he going to play? We don't have the information yet. I'm going to venture to guess and say no. I don't think that they push him. If he's dealing with an adductor issue, now it's an actual injury, right? Now it's officially an injury. I don't think they push him just yet. Will he be available next week? Maybe, but again, we don't have the timeline. I would say he doesn't play this weekend. So if you're listening to the show with the idea of, all right, I got to buy tickets for the game because I want to go see Messi play, I would say don't say this is information because I'm not presenting this as information. This is just supposition. I don't think Messi plays. I think he will continue his recovery, continue to rehab and work his way back to full health. Don't think he's there just yet. So what does that mean for Inter Miami? It's a good question. I was asked earlier this week, what I think about the team for the weekend, like who I think could potentially start, who could be on the bench. And it's tricky, to be honest with you guys, very tricky. And the reason for that is because players are coming back from the international break, right? So if they're coming back from the international break, that means that some players are going to be tired. Does Telasco Segovia start? I mean, it all will depend on how they recover. So will we see a full strength lineup aside from Messi possibly? I don't even know if I'd go that far. I think we might see some changes in the team. Because again, it just depends on what the condition of some of these players are after returning from international duty. So if I have to predict a lineup for Saturday, I would say Oscar Ustari returns to the goal after sitting out against Atlanta United due to the red card he had received in the previous league game against Charlotte FC. So Ustari in goal. The back four is interesting because we did see Chelo, Marcelo Weigand back with the group on Tuesday. So is he fit enough? Is he sharp enough to start? I know a lot of the fan base, or a good portion of the fan base, is very critical of him. I understand that. I understand those criticisms. I understand the thought and the opinion, and I even agree to it to an extent that he is limited, but I don't think he's as bad as some people make him out to be. I don't think Ian Frey has played exceptionally well to say that he is the starter at that right back position. I think he's been good defensively, but with the ball, hasn't been as clean as you would like, hasn't been much of a threat going forward. Chelo gives you a different type of outlet pass. He gets forward better. Not saying he's delivering dimes left and right, but he does give you a different dimension in terms of with the ball, how he progresses into the attack and how he is an outlet for the team. So that's up for grabs. Gonzalo Lujan, also an option. So we'll see what decision Javier Mascherano takes there. That's probably one of the more interesting lineup decisions that Mascherano will have to make. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that Chelo gets the start. If Chelo's back with the group, in my opinion, I think that he is viewed as at least right now, the number one option. Whether you agree with that notion, I'm not saying I think that's a notion. Maybe. I think it's tight. I think the right back spot is very, very tight. But I would say he starts, and I think it's because I think the coaching staff views him as the number one option there, and he's healthy again. So Chelo again at right back. The center back spots, I think you go Peluca Falcon. And now it's curious what you do at the left center back spot. Noah Allen was with Greece's under-21 national team. He's been the guy getting the looks, and he's been playing pretty well. I won't say he's been completely lights out, but he's been playing pretty well. Do you start him again, or do you turn to someone like David Martinez? Is Thomas Aviles an option? Because Thomas Aviles seems to have fallen out of favor a little bit. If Avila starts, you would imagine he goes to the right center back spot and Peluca Falcon at left center back. I would say Peluca Falcon at right center back. I think Noah Allen gets to start again at left center back. He seems to have really earned the trust of Mascherano. If he's able to go, if he's fit enough to go, if he's feeling good. Remember, this is his first time going with Greece's national team or a Greek youth national team since filing the one-time switch. I'm sure Noah Allen is as a youth U.S. men's national team player, has experienced all types of travel, but this is his first time in the MLS regular season traveling abroad to then have to return and play in a game on short rest. So if he's able, if he's feeling fit enough, if he's feeling like he's got enough legs for him, I think he starts. Left back, Jordi Alba, unquestionably, of course. In the midfield, again, 4-4-2 is what Inter Miami you're probably looking at here. I think your double pivot there is going to be Sergio Busquets and Yannick Bright. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I haven't touched on yet, but it's one of the biggest takeaways from the game against Atlanta United. That I think with his performance there and his recent performances, Yannick Bright has cemented his starting role in that midfield over Federico Redondo. He had a monster game defensively, Yannick Bright did, against Atlanta United. Just involved in a lot of cleaning up and putting out fires and winning the ball. He's very, very good with his timing and his physicality in terms of delivering crunching tackles. mostly by staying on his feet. Not a player that's sliding left and right to win the balls, but it looks early on like his partnership with Busquets is better for Inter Miami than Fede Redondo and Sergio Busquets, which initially looked like was going to be the preferred pairing. Now, that doesn't mean that in different games or in different moments, it can't be Redondo, but I think right now it's going to be Yannick Bright. That said, Bright is not the best with the ball, right? If you are, looking for some defensive muscle, some solidity, which Mascherano clearly is, then it's Yannick Bright. But if you're game planning to have the ball, to maybe not need to be so tough defensively and maybe be cleaner on the ball, have more possession, have someone that can help, transition the ball or bring the ball through the lines, be that kind of link next to Sergio Busquets, then it's Fede Redondo. But as of right now, I think Yannick Bright has made that starting spot his. Out on the wings is the question, because normally it would be Tadeo Allende and Telasco Segovia with Messi and Suarez up top. But with Messi, I'm assuming he's out. Where does Tadeo Allende go if he's available? Because he was a conspicuous absentee or absence from Tuesday morning's training session. He was the one player who was not away on international duty who just wasn't with the group out there on Tuesday morning. We'll see if he's out there on Friday. If he is, then, maybe he starts. But right now, it's a question mark. I'm going to go ahead and say he does start, even though we didn't see him on Tuesday. That normally would ring alarm bells for me, but let's say that he does start. But I think he starts up top next to Luis Suarez. So that means Telasco Segovia, again, same as Noah Allen. If he's feeling fit enough, he should start on the left midfield. Who's your right midfielder then? Then I think it's going to be either Benjamin Cremaschi or Fafa Pico. I imagine it will be Benjamin Cremaschi. So just to reiterate, to make that clear, because I know it was a lot of putting the pieces together there. Oscar Ustari, Chelo Weigand, Luca Falcon, Noah Allen, Jordi Alba. Then in the midfield from right to left, I'm going Cremaschi, Busquets, Bright, Segovia. And then I think up top, it's going to be Tadeo Allende and Luis Suarez. So I think Lionel Messi sits this one out. We'll see. Francisco Garcia says, ¿cuál es la titular ideal de Mascherano? And he asks, Ustari, Alba, Falcón, Martínez, Luján, Segovia, Busquets, Allende. If you're asking for an ideal starting 11, let's say everybody's healthy and everybody is available. No injuries, no red cards, no yellow cards to worry about. Best 11, do or die game tomorrow based on the roster they have available. I think it's Ustari. I think and this is not what I think is the best 11. This is what I think Inter Miami believes is the best 11. This is what I think Mascherano would trot out. It's not what I would trot out. This is what I think Inter Miami would trot out. Ustari, Chelo. It's tough, man. Tough. Peluca, Allen, Jordi Alba, Tadeo Allende, Busquets, Bright, Segovia, Messi, Suarez. That's what I think would be Inter Miami's best 11 if they had a do or die game tomorrow. Thomas asks, do you think Redondo starts Saturday and Bright on Wednesday? I think it's going to be Bright both, man. I think Bright's going to play in both. I mean, look, again, Inter Miami had the weekend off, so they should be as well rested as anybody in this league, right? You had the weekend off where 99% of the league, or 98 or 97, whatever percentage you want to put it on, it's high percentage. Whatever the actual number is, the majority of the league played. Inter Miami and one other team did not. So Inter Miami should be well rested. They should be able to play 2 games in short order with much of their starting team. What will be the key for Inter Miami on the weekend? Yeah, it's just competing, creating chances. The Philadelphia Union are a good team. They will provide a different type of test for Inter Miami. But if Inter Miami can continue to compete well, so they're not giving up things cheaply defensively, then they should have a good chance. Now, then it's just a matter of how they create chances and if they're put away, right? And I think with Luis Suarez, with Tadeo Allende, with Velasco Segovia, I think that trio, I think is enough, from a talent perspective to get you a goal or two. So it's about competing and then just about creating the chances with the players you do have available. Velasco Segovia might have to have a big game, especially if he's pulling the strings from the midfield, because with Messi out, then you need some players to step up in the creativity department. Luis Suarez is another player that has shown he can step up, right? Because, look, Inter Miami, you want to have Lionel Messi, right? You want to have him on the field. But this Inter Miami has already shown this season that it can not only win without him, it can also play well in spells without him, right? They did it against Houston. They've done it in different moments this year without Messi on the field. But this is a bigger test. This is a stiffer test. Philadelphia Union coming into South Florida. We'll see how Mascherano manages the game as well. We'll see what his approach is. So far, he's been excellent with coaching the team, but this is a big test for him. So we will see how he does there. Thomas says Miami needs to be ready for the Philly press. Philly does like to run. Philly does like to scrap. They're a very greedy team. Not the most beautiful, but it should be an interesting test. Should be an interesting test. All right, switching gears to some other Inter Miami news. Allen Obando was officially announced. He's officially an Inter Miami player. Now, what does that mean for his availability? So he was with the group, right? He was spotted during the international break as arriving to Miami. Like, there's a picture of him at the airport. Then there was a picture of him at the Inter Miami 2 game in the stadium. He was seen with the team at the open training session. He wasn't in training gear. He hadn't been announced yet, but he was in street clothes, regular clothes, and he was with the group as they walked out onto the field at Chase Stadium on Monday evening. His announcement comes on Tuesday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. It is a loan from Ecuadorian club Barcelona SC, not to be confused with FC Barcelona in Spain. It's a loan through the end of the season. There is an option to buy for Inter Miami. Teenage forward, Ecuadorian. He is effectively, and I want to be careful here because obviously he's not the product. He's not the seasoned product. And I don't want to say seasoned product because Campana wasn't that seasoned either when he got here, but Campana had more experience, right? Campana, when he arrived to Inter Miami, was a more polished player, a little bit further advanced in his career. He was older, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Obando is a teenager. He's at the very beginning stages of his career. He will probably be very, very green, but he essentially is the replacement for Leo Campana on the roster, right? He is a striker. Inter Miami didn't have a backup striker. They'd been using Fafa Picol in a pinch there when needed. Tadeo Allende at times as well. But Allen Obando is the backup number 9 for this team behind Luis Suarez, which is essentially the role that Leo Campana filled last year and, in previous seasons. So Ecuadorian for Ecuadorian. What kind of player he is, I couldn't tell you until I see him in action. Obviously Inter Miami is going to be high on him. Young player. Probably, from the looks, he looks athletic. He's lanky. He's got some height to him. So is he good in the air? Is he good at holding it up? Is he more of a player that likes to run into the channels? I don't know. Haven't seen enough to tell you, but it'll be something to follow. Will he be available this weekend? Depends on if he has his international transfer certificate, the ITC, if that has come in or not. I would guess probably not, but I could be wrong. All the same, he should be available fairly soon. Now, I know there was a comment here from one of you viewers about Baltasar Rodriguez. So he has been officially announced as an Inter Miami signing for a couple of weeks now or so, but he has not yet arrived to South Florida as of Tuesday. At least that's what we saw at training. Now, there were some second-team players in the group to help make up for the lack of bodies, but I did not see Baltasar Rodriguez. Maybe my eyes deceived me. Maybe I missed it, but I did not see him out there with the group, and I looked pretty carefully. Could be wrong, but he's not in Florida yet, or if he is, he arrived maybe after Tuesday. But yet he's not yet with the group as far as we have seen. Should arrive soon, and that should essentially complete the Inter Miami roster for the time being. Now, there could still be some, outgoings. It's clear that Julian Gressel is, not favored by Javier Mascherano. Drake Callender was on the bench against Atlanta United with Rios Novo getting the start with Ustari suspended. So that kind of shows you where Drake Callender lies in the pecking order as well. Doesn't seem to be all that rated, although the official language is that las sensaciones de Drake, Drake's feelings, Drake's sensations do not allow him to feel fully comfortable to play yet, but that he does have the medical clearance to play. So all that murkiness, all that lack of clarity, instead of just, maybe coming out right and saying this is the case. I mean, I guess if we take it at face value, then he's not feeling 100% despite medically being cleared to play. That's what you take it at face value. If you read between the lines, I mean, you see him at practice. I saw him on Tuesday. He looks fine. He does all the drills, at least during the 15 minutes that all the other goalkeepers do. So I don't know. Just to me, it seems like he's not favored by this coaching staff, which again is fair. That's completely fair for the coaching staff. They do not rate him like other coaching staffs might, or like some of you might. That's they're allowed to have that opinion. You might not agree with that opinion, but they're allowed to have that opinion. And he's not good with the ball at his feet. We know that this team wants to play from the back to the front. Not necessarily death by 1,000 touches like it was with Tata Martino. This is a more direct team, but they still want to be good on the ball for much of the game when they have possession. So Drake Callender does not necessarily fit that. So you can kind of read between the lines there and see why he can dress or why he can train, but he's not feeling 100%, despite being medically cleared to play. Thomas says it's over for Drake. He didn't play against Atlanta. Roberto says Drake is cooked. I mean, I think the writing's been on the wall. I think from the outside, it's been pretty evident, despite Inter Miami's attempts to, paint a different picture. At least, again, that's my supposition and that's my sensation. Again, I think I said this a few weeks ago. I had heard from sources that there was interest and there were trade talks during the offseason for Drake Callender for a Western Conference team, but that those trade talks didn't go very far. They didn't materialize. So, it is what it is. Drake Callender right now is on the roster, but clearly not going to be a very big contributing part unless something does a 180 here. Something completely changes to allow him to go back in. Rios Novo's number 2 right now, which, again, says a lot. All right. I think I touched on almost everything that's happened during the past week and a half, or almost 2 weeks here, since Inter Miami last played. I think I did it, and I think I did it in less than an hour's time, which is, I don't know if I'm going to say impressive, but it is different than usual, right? Normally we start late and normally we go late. So we go for an hour and a half. apologies to you guys for not having one of the co-hosts on. The plan was to do that. I was even scrambling to try to find someone last minute to come in as a guest. But it is Miami Music Week here in South Florida, so people are getting ready to party. People are getting ready to have some fun. I almost lined up a very special guest, which might have been the biggest guest we've ever had on this show. I was very close to being able to get the guest on, but I will leave it as a mystery. I'll pull one from Inter Miami's book and leave it a mystery. The guest just couldn't make it on because he had other things going on. He does want to be on soon because he said he wants to talk some Inter Miami. It will be probably the biggest guest we've had on the show. I mean, we've had some pretty good guests. If you've been here from the start, from 2020, we've had some good guests on Miami Total Football Radio. We've had, Luis Robles. We had Drake Callender. We had Victor Ulloa. We've had several different players over the course of the years. Lately, with us transitioning to YouTube and doing the shows later on in the day, it's harder to have Inter Miami players come on as guests because at that point in the day, they're no longer with Inter Miami. They're at home, resting or with their families. We could still try to line it up, but it's more of a challenge. But this guest, he will not disappoint. And I will say it is a former player. And I really wanted to have him on because I wanted him to share some insight into, how players manage the injuries, how they go about, if it's not too severe, but something that's lingering, how a player might go about that. So hopefully at some point soon I can resolve or end the mystery for you guys and tell you who it is. But for now, we will leave it. We will leave it a mystery. And Thomas says the co-host was scared to challenge you. Yeah, Minty. That's why I've always from the beginning liked the idea of having at least two people on. And then you have two different thoughts, right? Not everyone's going to agree with me. Not everyone's going to agree with the other co-host. But you have different trains of thought. You can have a discussion, a debate. Sometimes, they're pretty fired up here. Debatimos fuerte, but it's all part of the beautiful game. That's why I am very reluctant, and I almost didn't do tonight's show, but I felt like we needed to catch up. It's been, again, a couple of weeks been several weeks since the last pod, but a couple of weeks since the last show on the watch along, which I think are going well. I think you guys are enjoying them. The numbers seem to back that up, so we'll continue to do them. Next week's against LAFC. It's going to be late. I think the game kicks off at 11, maybe 10:30 Eastern, but maybe 11. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes because it's going to be a late one. Get your snacks, your soda, your Gatorade, your water, popcorn, whatever, your chocolate if you're a chocolate person. Get whatever you need ready for next Thursday or next week because that LAFC game does kick off very late for us here on the East Coast. We should have our usual lineup all back together, and I think it would be for the first time that all four of us will be back together. Well, not back together. This will be the first time we are all together next week after the Philadelphia Union game before the LAFC game. So at some point early next week, we should have another podcast. Even if we can't get the four of us, as long as we can get two of us, the show will go on. Apologies for not being able to bring you the clip of Messi training. I don't know what happened. It just wouldn't allow me to select it for whatever reason. I tried like 5 different things while also speaking to you guys here, and it just did not allow me to. So apologies for that. I'll bring you an update tomorrow. I promise, on Twitter, on X, at Franco Panizo, as you see right here, right below. For those of you watching, for those of you listening, at Franco Panizo. There will be a Lionel Messi update of some sort tomorrow. Maybe the update is Mascherano is tight-lipped as to whether Messi will play against the Union. Maybe he rules him out entirely. But there will be some form of update. We'll see if Messi continues to train with the group or not. On Tuesday, he looked fine on Tuesday during the first 15 minutes. Now, don't know what happened after those 15 minutes. Don't know if after that he went and trained on his own. But during the 15 minutes that he was with the group, he did the sprints, he did the drills. didn't show any signs of discomfort or pain. Maybe there's an outside chance he plays on the weekend. But again, you're asking me today on Thursday night, March 27th. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he does not play. All right, so we will leave it there. I think this was a good catch-up episode of Miami Total Football Radio, the show. I've been talking for almost an hour. Thank you guys for tuning in and commenting and giving me something to work off of, because talking alone for an hour, not this. Well, I'm trying to click around and do other things. Not the easiest, but good practice, I guess, for potential other moment that this could happen down the road. Hopefully not. Hopefully we get the group together, and hopefully today is just a one-off, an outlier. So I think we will leave it there for now. Guys, if you're heading out to the game on the weekend, enjoy it. Inter Miami's back from the international break. We'll see how they do against a very stiff opponent in the Philadelphia Union. We'll see if Lionel Messi plays, if he dresses, or if he misses another game. And that is something I did want to talk about before I sign off here. I will leave it for, I didn't want to do it here because I don't have the co-host here to really sink our teeth into it. And I think it would be a disservice to do it by myself, because I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I want to read your guys' thoughts as well. But I think it deserves a bigger discourse. This weekend, I guess, will tell us a little bit more. You know, is Messi's body at 37 years old finally showing signs of breaking down? Is it showing, is it giving him hints and signs that, look, we can't maintain the rigors of the day-to-day of football, professional football? Because this is not the first time Messi has been injured with Inter Miami. He's been injured pretty often since signing with Inter Miami in 2023, right? In 2023, he misses the Open Cup final. Last year, of course, he suffers the ankle injury. I think it was ligaments in the Copa America final. Obviously, that's not, it's more of an injury that he gets as a result of a tackle, of a hit. So not really on him on that one, but he has had other muscle injuries or close to muscle injuries, sobrecargas, and he's missed quite a bit of games. I have the numbers. I'm ready to share them. I'm ready to talk about it in more detail, but I want to leave that for, again, when we have some of the podcast co-hosts, because there is an argument to be made that maybe, the signs are showing that he is starting to break down a little bit, that el fútbol maybe lo está comenzando a dejar, right? Like soccer is starting to leave him because he's getting older, right? And that's Father Time is undefeated. At some point, he will retire. At some point, he will call it an illustrious career, hang up the cleats and say goodbye, say farewell. How far away we are from that is unclear, but it looks like we're getting closer and closer just by the way his body is not responding as well as you would like. Because at this point in the year, he's missed quite a few games, a lot of them due to health reasons, right? Whether it's he's injured or he's almost injured, but he's not injured, whatever the case is, clearly his health has been a big talking point since he arrived, and especially this year. So we'll talk about that more next week. I promise we'll get your thoughts. We will sink our teeth into that a little bit more, but we'll leave it there for now. So guys, if you are going out for Miami Music Week, enjoy yourselves. If you're going to the Inter Miami game, enjoy yourselves. South Florida will be very, very busy this week. I'll be at the Inter Miami game per usual. So look forward to seeing some of you there, and we will be back next week. So I am Franco Panizo. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in. Give us a like, a share, a comment, a subscribe. It is free for you guys, and it helps us out tremendously to continue to bring you content like this video podcast, like the watch along, like the watch alongs that we've been doing, like the behind the scenes interviews that you can only pretty much get here. All the stuff you can only pretty much get here. So if you're an Inter Miami fan or you're a Lionel Messi fan, smash that subscribe button. But again, guys, thank you for tuning in. Bye for now, and we will talk to you guys again next week.